Welcome to Module 8B, Eligible Expenses. By the end of this module, you will understand which expenses can be claimed for education credits, understand how to read Form 1098-T and calculate qualified expenses, and finally, understand how to interpret student account statements. This module is broken up into 3 sections: determining the eligible expenses, recap, and then we'll end with a knowledge check. So, how does one determine eligible expenses? What does the client need to present? For tax years beginning with 2017, the law requires that the student must receive Form 1098-T in order for taxpayers to claim the education credit. The client also needs to present a copy of their student account statement from the eligible institution. Here you can see a 1098 with an adjustment is out of scope for VITA. If you encounter a taxpayer with a Form 1098-T with an entry in box 4 or 6, consult your site coordinator. In order to calculate expenses available for credit, the expense must be paid during the calendar year. Expenses paid in December 2018 for spring 2019 semester qualify for 2018. Reduce expenses by any scholarships or grants received. The amount of expenses that exceed scholarships and grants can be used to calculate the credit. The amount of scholarships and grants that exceed expenses is reported on the student's return as income. Qualified education expenses do not include amounts paid for insurance, medical expenses, room and board, transportation, similar personal, living, or family expenses. This is true even if the amount must be paid to the institution as a condition of enrollment or attendance. In terms of sports, games, hobbies, and non-credit courses, qualified education expenses generally don't include expenses that relate to any course of instruction or other education that involves sports, games, or hobbies, or any other non-credit course. However, if the course of instruction or other education is part of the student's degree program, these expenses can qualify. For comprehensive or bundled fees, some eligible educational institutions combine all of their fees for an academic period into one amount. If you don't receive or don't have access to an allocation showing you how much you paid for qualified education expenses and how much you paid for personal expenses, such as those listed previously, contact the institution. The institution is generally required to make this allocation and provide you with the amount you paid for qualified education expenses on Form 1098-T. As you can see, here's a copy of something that is ineligible, which is student accident insurance and a parking permit. In addition, there are some other types of ineligible expenses on the student account statement. For example, dropping a course means that it's no longer eligible. General use fee and again, student accident insurance fees, these are ineligible expenses. In order to determine eligible expenses, you need to reduce the expenses by any scholarships or grants received. So based on this student account statement from Ann Harvard, the eligible expenses are $9,900 minus $5,360, which results in $4,540. Just remember, tuition and other related expenses plus additional qualified expenses equals total qualified expenses. For qualified education expenses, these are books, materials, or other equipment required for class. Non-qualified expenses are rent, meals, health insurance, parking, student activity fees, or anything not required for class. Let's recap. The taxpayer must have Form 1098-T and a copy of the student account statement to claim an education credit. Taxable scholarship/grant income is reported on the student's return when the amount exceeds qualifying education expenses. Tax credits are reported on the tax return of the taxpayer who can claim the student as a dependent. The student then claims the credit if no taxpayer is able to claim them as a dependent. So, like previously in Module 8A, We have the Module 8 quiz, as well as a few Dear Iris letters. Up next, Module 8C, treatment of scholarships and grants.